This city wall is a product of the Cold Steel Age, but almost all the walls have been destroyed or dismantled since then. When you climb up the tower and examine the ancient wall, you may not believe it could be preserved to the present day, but incredibly, as early as more than 600 years ago, it was almost exactly as you see it today. This is the ancient city of平遥, located in the central part of Shanxi province in northern China. It is the most complete city that still retains the characteristic of the Ming and Qing dynasties in China.平遥is an ancient city with a history of over 2,700 years. The earliest city wall was just a small-scale barrier made of clay. In 1370, the Ming dynasty strengthened the Great Wall to defend against attacks from northern nomadics by adding about 5,000 kilometers, and at the same time ordered all towns to build defenses and fortify according to specific regulations. The outside of平遥city wall was packed with bricks and stones, and a 2-meter-high parapet was built on top of the wall for defense against arrows. During the following 500 years of the Ming and Qing dynasties, a total of 26 repairs and renovations were made, and a city tower as well as watchtowers were added to supply a lookout and resting place for the guards. Outside the city, they also built a protrusion known as a horse face, with which they could attack enemy armies from the side. After the founding of the People's Republic of China, the ancient city of平遥was renovated many times. The existing historical city wall of平遥measures a total of 6.4 kilometers in length, 10 meters high with 6 city gates. Each entrance consists of 2 gates, an inside gate and an outside gate. The area situated between the inside and outside gates was called a wencheng or outside enclosure. Most interestingly, the overlooking map of the平遥city wall looks like a tortoise. The south gate resembles its head with 2 original wells serving as eyes. Lying in the lowest place in the entire city, the north gate looks like the tortoise's tail. All accumulated wastewater was released from here. The upper and lower western gates and the upper and lower eastern gates act as the forelegs of the tortoise. There are 4 avenues, 8 small streets and 72 alleys that make up the transit system in平遥. Viewed from above, this network looks not unlike the back of a turtle shell. The principal north-south running street that lay in the center of the ancient city formed an axis, the vertebrae. The tallest building in the city was looked upon as a turtle's heart. In ancient China, the turtle was seen as a symbol of good luck, which represented longevity. The planners and constructors of antiquity built cities in the shape of the turtle, hoping that the walls would remain solid and unbreakable forever. Guan Yu was a famous Chinese general who lived more than 1,800 years ago. Seen as an embodiment of bravery and loyalty, he was known as a warrior saint and has been worshipped by the Chinese people ever since. Shrines dedicated to Guan Yu were built within several of the outside enclosures of the ancient city of平遥. The city guards hoped for the blessing of the god of war and the victory in battle. Fortunately, during the more than 600 years after the completion of the平遥city wall, no large-scale attack on the city has ever occurred. This is why this ancient city has survived till today with its current integrity. Guan Yu was also known as a martial god of wealth and was seen by merchants as a guardian deity. This mystical historical figure seems to have played a very important role in protecting the平遥city. Modern平遥County has never known the havoc of war and was even once the richest in the world. At the ancient city gates of Pingyao, one can make out some distinct grooves in the stone surface of the road. They were not cut intentionally, but were rather worn down by the iron-bound cart wheels over 100 years ago during the late Qing dynasty. At that time, Pingyao was a financial center in China. Merchants gathered daily to transport goods by cart through the gates of the city. Before the 19th century, the greater part of China's currency was being made up of gold and silver ingots, commonly known as yuanbao. Yuanbao were very heavy, difficult to transport, and therefore extremely unsafe. We can still see carved stone ingots in the mansion courtyard of merchants of those days. These mansions sometimes covered hundreds of acres and included several courtyards. Exquisite carvings peppered the property, some of which as tall as 7 to 8 meters. Closed the windows on the outer wall for defense, almost like a small fortress. In the center of the courtyard would be a stone ingot, a symbol that represented wealth. The merchants would pray for greater fortune every day and prosperity in every year. The owner of this mansion was named Lei Lu Tai. He was once the manager of a dye shop. In 1823, he raised 300,000 silver taels and created Pingyao's first money exchange house. Yusheng Chang. This was also the first bank ever in China in the modern sense. Money at Yusheng Chang was made mainly through exchange. With the draft, clients could allocate funds safely and conveniently using their own secret symbol for authentication. The use of watermarks was also adopted to guard against counterfeiting. The 2 gas lamps in the cashier's office were foreign imports that gave off bright light. These were used exclusively to authenticate watermarks. Yusheng Chang received a remittance fee proportionate to the length of the journey. Because traffic in those days still wasn't developed, the period of remittances was always very long, and the change house took advantage of this time to compound interest on loans. The cashiers at the change house were very smart and capable. They operated well and made a very handsome profit. At that time, the vast majority of change houses in China came from Shanxi province, totaling over 40 in number, 22 of which were from Pingyao. At their peak, the Pingyao change houses controlled almost half of the Chinese currency in circulation. Today, the ancient city of Pingyao is like a museum for studying the financial development history of modern China. Although Shanxi merchants were world famous, they did not receive high status in the minds of traditional Chinese. Officialdom is a natural outlet for good scholars, was the goal of most people in those times. Worship in the temple of the most famous Chinese thinker and educator, Confucius, always enjoyed great popularity. It is said Confucius said 3,000 disciples, 72 of which were wise and sagacious. In the ancient city of Pingyao, there were 3,000 cranos and 72 watchtowers. It isn't difficult to see that Confucius was deeply respected by the people. The main building of the Pingyao Confucian Temple, named Dacheng Hall, has a history of over 800 years. It is now the oldest Confucian temple in China and also the oldest building in Pingyao City. At the far wall of Dacheng Hall, one can see the symbol Kui. Kui means first. According to the legend, a John once hung in front of the word Kui, and only the top scorer in the imperial examination would be qualified to sound it. But for Pingyao at the time, business took the lead as the most prominent interest. The pursuit of wealth attracted a large number of talented people away from literature and into business. In more than 500 years of imperial examination of Ming and Qing dynasties, no one from Shanxi had attained the top score. It goes without saying that the drone remained silent throughout. The booming of the Pingyao money exchange lasted nearly 80 years and began to decline only at the start of the 20th century. Due to the lack of water resources in Pingyao, the development of modern large-scale industry was restricted, and economic development slowed down. The ancient city never underwent large-scale demolition or alteration. This, coupled with the government limiting the population of the city to less than 40,000 and planning a new town outside the original city, allowed the ancient city walls, streets, government offices, shops, as well as other buildings maintain the original integrity of their ancient layout. In the outskirts of Pingyao lie the two ancient temples of Shuanglin and Zhengguo. Shuanglin Temple has a history of more than 1,400 years and is known for its colorful statues. The statue of Wei Tuo, guardian deity of the Hall of 1,000 Buddhas, is considered the first such statue in China and is undoubtedly the most remarkable statue in Shuanglin Temple. The Buddha, having often been portrayed as looking dignified and benevolent, is depicted in Shuanglin Temple's Guan Yin crossing the sea, shows a relaxed, charming pose, something which is rarely seen in Buddhist art. Zhengguo Temple's Hall of 1,000 Buddhas was built in the 10th century, making it one of the oldest wooden structures in China. The local specialty, Pingyao lacquerware, was one of China's 4 major lacquer traditions and already has a millennium of history. Pingyao lacquerware was made by repeatedly applying hard finish to the surface of the piece and then grinding and polishing it down. Another coat would then be applied and the process would be repeated. At last, it would be hand polished to a healthy shine. The ancient city of Pingyao, black brick and gray tile, after thousands of years of weathering, its color is still not as bright as lacquerware once produced there. But when you stroll through it, as though strolling through history, you will surely feel the long-lasting radiance of traditional Chinese culture.